We'll start with Lina. Please come.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you still have some steam left to listen in to us, because it's at the fag end of the day and we have had a very long day with lots of stimulating discussions, presentations, etc., etc. So I will keep it short, but at the same time, I'll give you a snippet of what we have been doing, and I'll try to keep it very, very practice oriented. So during my presentation, if you have any, questions which you wish to ask, just feel free to stop me and you can raise your hand and ask. So if there are any doubts, or we could do it at the end as well. So how Rama and we have planned to do this session is, I'll do the presentation for about 15 minutes and then she will come in and she will do, talk about another concept related to the Multilila project, and then we will come back, take your questions, and then we'll do a little bit of more, we can share more examples of what we have done so that it benefits the teachers in all of us. So I think that's the homogenizing factor today, that all of us are related to education, language education, teachers, or soon to be teachers. So thank you, Minati, for your kind words of appreciation and that succinct summary of what we have done in Multilila and how we have taken it forward. So our attempt in Multilila was, to do a profiling at an India level basis of learners' abilities in terms of their linguistic ability, in terms of their mathematical ability, and in terms of their cognitive ability. So this was at the heart of Multilila, and for each ability we had a battery of tests. Like Minati explained, that for mathematics we had 3 tests, for example. So the first one was an adapted version of ASAR, because we realized that there were some problems with the items, because when we started piloting ASAR assessment tools, we realized that across sites we identified some problems. So we adapted. Then Minati came up with a fantastic mathematic logic tracking assessment tool, which we used within the battery, and we also used another battery of mathematics knowledge, which was used in UK and other countries. So it was like kind of semi-standardized. The same for language capability, and we had a test for general intelligence and to assess fluid intelligence and cognitive processing, so on and so forth. So I won't move into all of that. I would just make some observations from what we found out from language profiling. So this was our project team, and as she explained, that it was a multi-consortium project targeting large number of students, and we had a contingent of almost 25 plus research associates to help us, and we worked in 3 sites. One was Delhi, NCR region, then we worked in Bihar, and we worked in Telangana, and every place we worked with the urban poor living in slum and semi-slum areas, and in Bihar we worked with urban poor as well as rural, semi-rural children. So we really went into the most challenging contexts in order to figure out what was their linguistic, mathematic and cognitive profiles like within the milieu of multilingualism. So here I'm not getting into the politics or deeper cognitive aspects of languages as we did in the last session, but like I said, this is more like practice oriented for teachers, and so that there are some takeaways. So I would like to show you a summary of what we found in Multilila, followed by how we identified certain aspects from the children's profile and we took it forward into the classroom. So how we did that, again in 2 ways, I will talk about it slightly later, but let's first look at the summary of our findings from Multilila. So what we found was, like I said, that there were 2,500 learners, actually slightly more than that, who were longitudinally assessed when they were in their grades 4 and going on to grade 5. So it was like the actual data collection ran for around 18 months to 24 months. And so these were children who were enrolled in regional medium instruction, so in Telugu or Hindi, as the case may be. So Telugu in Hyderabad and Hindi in Delhi NCR and Bihar versus the ones who were enrolled in so-called officially designated English medium instruction schools, right? And what we found was a lot of multilingualism happening in the class across the sites. I'm not touching upon that right now because as I said that multilingua was primarily to profile learners' abilities. So what we found was overwhelmingly that across English, Hindi and Telugu, literacy, we could, profile the learners using an adapted version of ASAR, and I will show our results regarding language and reading in my next slide. More importantly, what we found was in addition to literacy skills, we paired it up with their oral language skills. So they performed on a task, which was a simple task, where they heard a story and then they had to retell the story. So they heard the story in their language of instruction. So if it was a so-called EMI instruction setup, they would hear the story along with a picture panel in English, and then the child was given the opportunity to select whichever language they could retell the story in. So we just took that data and we analyzed it, and what we found was their comprehension skills, which is a cognitive skill and it runs across languages and across subjects, that their comprehension skills when expressed through the oral modality was much higher than when it was, mediated through the print modality. So this was our first seminal understanding from the multilingual project. So that was one. Then we had some results from numeracy, problem solving, and also cognitive and intelligence abilities. And we found that, they were comparable across the medium of instruction. So we did not find any, jarring results that, okay, in EMI it is better, in regional medium it is worse, and things like that. In addition to that, we also tried to triangulate the data. So we went to the classes of, so around, I would say 60 plus schools were associated with multilingual across the 3 sites. And we went into the classes. We tracked teachers in English classes and mathematics classes just to see how languaging was practiced in the classes. And what we found was, yes, multilingualism was at the heart of it. And teachers were using languages according to their local resources, and also in some cases they were also able to include the languages of their children. So we have lots of pie charts and other things to map the linguistic landscape in the classrooms. I'm not getting into that right now. And then we also looked at teacher perceptions, their identity formation, who they thought they were in terms of their language use, and did they see themselves as an English teacher, as a mathematics teacher, their conflict with languages, so on and so forth. So this comprised of multilingual. Now from the main findings of multilingual, what we found, now I'm going to zero in on, I'm going to take a lens and I'm going to zero in on the reading comprehension of the learners, and for which I'm using as a benchmark the ASAR adapted tool, not the ASAR the regular tool. So before I show a slide on their reading performance in regional medium and English medium, schools. What I would like to just specify, I think Professor Jamila was here in the morning and she made a comment that what is the need for us to use letters, words, sentences, etc., etc. They are not looking at reading for meaning. So I would like to specify here that theorization on reading comprehension, in a very nutshell, I will say that there are 2 directions. One is reading for decoding and second is reading for meaning making. So ASAR is a test which looks at reading for decoding, not so much for meaning. However, the story is not so unidimensional. There is a complexity or there is a twist in the tale that the last task that it uses, those of you who are familiar with the ASAR tool, that the last 2 items that it uses, the sentence reading and the story reading task. So again, from theorization of cognition, psychology and applied linguistics, we know for sure, that reading aloud in a meaningful manner, using chunking, pausing at related constituent phrases of the language is not possible without comprehending the syntactic and semantic structure of the language. Right. So even though read aloud might feel that it is only decoding, but at the heart of it is also comprehension. And I would like to, it was fascinating to hear Manjima using examples as to how she found out whether the children were actually comprehending when they were reading aloud. Right. So ways to find out how children have done read aloud. Have they read aloud with meaning? One of the indicators of that is chunking or pauses, which can be analyzed, which has not been analyzed in the literature so far. And in India, we have a lot of data, especially the assert data. If it has been recorded, it can be, a place like CDS can take it up, that the chunking and how the analysis of meaning making happens on the basis of that. However, we can also look at meaning making by asking them one or two comprehension questions, which we did in our Multilila project. And now in the current projects, what we are doing is every text that the children are using as an assessment tool, we are also asking them to recall a summary of the text, which is a direct, assessment of their reading ability. And they can do it in any language, their regional language or any other local language or English, whichever they find comfortable, to express their understanding of that text. So these are things, we can include in the assert tool if we want to use it for pedagogical purposes, for clinical purposes, for profiling purposes, that to ensure that, okay, it's not only the performative act of reading it aloud, but also with meaning, right? So in relation to that, I'd like to show this slide now. So this is a fairly simple slide and it is based on what Professor Jacob, showed us in the morning. So here, as you can see that these are the two colors indicate the regional language versus English, and the light blue is English and the dark blue is regional language. So what we found in our project across sites, that the performance on the regional language comprehension and decoding, starting from letters, words, paragraph, story, and comprehension, was way higher than in English. Okay, the only point, if you look at the last graph here on comprehension, so for comprehension, we adapted the assert tool, and so there is a text which talks about, a sapling which is all by itself, and then one fine day there's a bird who drops a seed near the sapling, and then another sapling grows, and the two saplings are now very happy because they have a companion in each other. So this one, we had two comprehension questions. That how did the sapling feel when another tree grew beside it, and then why do you think that the sapling felt the way it did? So we were trying to understand children's knowledge of theory of mind, that are they able to relate to emotional aspects in their environment, and are they able to argue about it or express their opinion. And so these were like two simple comprehension questions we used. However, only in Hyderabad, the children many of the children resisted responding to the questions, and so the RAs at that point aborted the tests. That is why we do not have comprehension, knowledge about the Telugu children who were in Telugu medium instruction. But apart from that, we across the sites, across the schools, we found that at the level of letters, words, paragraph, story, and comprehension, the regional language performance was higher than the English performance, which is not something to worry about at all. Like as I was saying in the morning, that again, from our cognitive theories, we know for sure, and if you have heard of the name of Professor Jim Cummins, that he constantly says that if cognitive academic language, which we find in schools, are better developed in the learner's stronger language, then it becomes ready for transfer to any language X, Y, and Z. Right. So if the regional medium language comprehension and expression of comprehension is strengthened, then chances are that it will be easily available for English comprehension, English development, or maybe use of Hindi or Malayalam in Tamil Nadu or Malayalam in Bengal, and things like that. So this is an experiment that has taken place in the last, I would say, 60 to 70 years. And most of the places across the globe, this has been found to be, it has some truth to it. So it's not only theory for theory's sake. And that's the reason why I responded that, if they have chosen to answer in Hindi or in Malayalam and not in English, that is not something which is disturbing, but it is reassuring that at least they are trying to express their comprehension in one language, which the teachers the interesting part is teachers also need to have the orientation that, okay, this is what my child can do, and so how I can take it to the next level. It's like Krashen's theory, that comprehensible input, I+1, what mothers or siblings at home constantly try to give as linguistic input to the child, that they don't simplify the language. So a mother does not always simplify the language that the mother speaks to her child, but it is in the conversation that the child picks up a lot of language. So the same thing can be emulated in the language classroom or in education per se. So now, taking on this, our understanding from the Multilila project, as you can see that letters, words, and also I would say paragraph reading, which is like a short paragraph, regional language and English, if you compare, more or less there is 50% success, which is like what we thought was the ground reality. And so we thought that we will be applying for funding, and now in the follow-up projects, what we would do is we would focus on developing reading comprehension skills through a multimodal manner. So it would be through the route of listening as well. So we would not only do reading for reading's sake, but we would also bring in the modality of listening. We would also bring in the modality of speaking as well. And we would try to strengthen comprehension skills across language classroom and one more content classroom, because comprehension is at the heart of education, right? That if a child can comprehend in the language, then he or she can comprehend physics, chemistry, social sciences, psychology, etc., etc. And it's a lifelong skill, right? It's like a survival skill. Yes. Okay. So this is how we conceptualized our follow-up project. So what we did was we had funding for 4 projects emanating from Multilila project, and there was also a mini project attached to Multilila. So that's how we had 5 funded projects between 2019 and 2023, and now we have another big project which is funded by British Council and Cambridge between 23 and 26. So that makes it 6 follow-up projects. And across these 6 projects, we have planned an intervention study. Right. And what does the intervention focus on? The intervention focuses on the ground reality that classes are multilingual at their heart, and being multilingual also means that they are multi-cognitive, and in terms of their critical thinking, they are able to apply it across languages, across subjects. So this was our ground reality. The second thing that we found from Multilila, as I said at the beginning, that based on the oral, recall performance, we realized that since India has a rich oral tradition, or we have the culture of Shruti, that once upon a time there was no print language, right? So, but in Indian languages, we had things like Shadhu and Chalit, right? So the Shadhu form was the one which would be like slightly higher in terms of its variety, because it would be used in literature and maybe some of the other, aspects of the society, whereas the Chalit would be more like communicational, conversational language skills. So what we found was children living in multilingual neighborhoods, and because of the rich oral tradition that India has, they have this capacity of using their oral skills very spontaneously and also across different contexts. And therefore, in the school context, we could find that most of the children were successfully able to recall the picture story retelling task. And it didn't matter whether it was in English or Hindi or Telugu. At the end of it, they had a nice, good story. Right. So this was at the heart of our, understanding. And then we also wanted to build learner agency, and also all of it through teacher training. So this was is a slide, a quick overview of the 6 projects, and I will show you more examples now. So this I can skip because I've already theorized about, reading comprehension being a building stone of education. So in the intervention projects, what we did was we first focused on, developing lesson plans which incorporated the multilingual inputs. And we trained the teachers first to use the multilingual lesson plans, and then we gradually nudged and pushed them so that they could create the lesson plans in a way that we were, showing them how multilingualism could be explored in the classes, and taking cognizance of the fact that for developing reading comprehension, the vocabulary skills have to be developed, and also the sub skills of reading have to be developed. So reading for factual details, reading for inferential abilities, reading for understanding author's bias, global concepts, summarizing the text, so on and so forth. So we looked at reading in terms of its subcomponents, and as well as we also looked at the fact that spoken language expression can also support reading comprehension. So from time to time, whatever the learners were reading in the class, in smaller groups, we asked them to summarize what they have comprehended, and we have the data and we are analyzing to find out what are their syntactic and semantic abilities, as well as the knowledge of story grammar through those recall data. So this is the multilingual lesson plan. Now let me show you how we are doing the multilingual lesson plan. I'll take a minute to do that. So if you can look at the slide, so we have a text, right? So one of the things what we do is we break the text into short constituent parts, right? So that it is readable and it is manageable. So we try to, let's say if a text is 150 to 200 words, we try to break it into 50 words or 70 words. And then from each segment, we try and figure out which words or which phrases can be likely difficult for the children. Now, how do we do that? We use technology. We use a software. If you are interested, I can share that with you. It is called Lexical Tutor, which helps us understand which words are beyond the comprehension level of the learners. And also we use teachers, inherent understanding that which words or phrases will be culturally alien and things like that. And what we do is that for each word and phrase, we try to provide correlates or, equivalent. So sometimes like idiomatic expressions may or may not have, cognitive correlates. So it could be another idiom to express the same meaning, like fire meaning anger, or red meaning anger. So one language can have fire as anger, another language could have red as anger. And so we also try to establish those correlates. So sometimes there are one-to-one mapping between words and phrases between language X and Y. Sometimes it is just a meaning, equivalent. So we work with both of these. And then what we do is we also try to help the child express their comprehension in whichever language they can, and then we back translate it into English, so that their attention is focused on developing proficiency in their target languages as well. So it's not only one language that we are looking at, although it's an English language classroom or a EVS classroom, we are working with development of multi-competence. I'll stop in 2 minutes. Right. So in our interventions so far, what we have done is we have used English as the target language because of its social reality of parental aspirations, etc., etc. But we have supported the language with the fact that children's orality or oral skills are very high, and therefore the oral skills can be used to develop their print skills in English and in other subjects. So these are some of the languages that we have used across classes. And so these are more examples. So this is, as you can see, a teacher in action on the board. She's like constantly trying to use multilingual phrases, doing translations, equivalents. And these are, some pictures which we generated using AI to teach idioms and phrases. So the pictures are given and children are asked to select the correct phrase with the picture and then provide translation equivalent. So they are really engaging with the material of the text, and also we are making sure that languages are supported through the tasks that they are doing, and it's not only one language at the cost of others. And then we also arrange for peer group discussions where they are expected to use any language that they wish to, and they negotiate, and then they translate or summarize whatever they have discussed in English. Right. So one happy picture that we found in the project is that when we used reading assessment, we saw that over a period of 9 to 10 months that children have improved in their English comprehension, and the comprehension success we found was more pronounced in expository texts, which are used in EVS classrooms or science classrooms, more over narrative texts. And probably the narrative texts are using using more literary language, whereas the expository texts are using more, everyday experiential language. So probably the gain is because of that, but we have still not analyzed that data. So we are yet to come up with the reasons for this. Right, so I'll stop here, and so this is a slide on teacher perceptions, that how useful they thought the strategies were in classrooms, and there is a mix of reaction. We can pick it up maybe later during the discussion. And so this is the current project that we are working on. So we are looking at learning, assessment, and teaching, all three directions. And this is our wonderful team from Assam, from Delhi, UK, and Germany. So again, it's a multi university collaboration, and Rama is one of our, she has been a consultant and an advisor through the project, so she has a good history of it, and she will take you to the next aspect of the project. And this is what is our work in progress, and these are some snippets from our work, and we can take up more questions once Rama finishes her presentation. Thank you.